We're going to continue with our rolling coverage now. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa will unveil the party's 2026 local government election manifesto, and this is happening at the Riverside Park in Diepsloot, north of Johannesburg, just a little later this morning. So for more on this build-up coverage, it's across to our senior reporter Samkele Maseko. Samkele, good morning once again. Perhaps from your vantage point, as we build up to what that framework is going to look like, you can tell us what's happening, what's the mood, what the atmosphere is also like. We're looking at the track record of the party, perhaps also some of the hits, some of the misses, and really what happens from here on two, given the political stakes. Perhaps you can paint that picture a little clearer as we edge closer.
Indeed, Liesl, on this chilly, sunny morning over at Diepsloot, the ANC will be launching its elections manifesto at a time where the former liberation movement is faced with an uphill task of getting South Africans out to vote for the party, particularly if you look at the deficiencies that are there at a local level, the lack of service delivery, the lack of refuse collection, the lack of water provision, which is a basic necessity of life. If you look at some of their successes, particularly in the area where they are at right now in Riverside, in Diepsloot, which is a township that was built in order to try and reduce the overcrowding of people in Alexandra. I am going to bring in Ms. Bhengu, Mahlengi Bhengu, who is the spokesperson of the African National Congress. Ms. Bhengu, just the importance and the critical nature of you coming to this area of Diepsloot. What was the thinking behind coming to Diepsloot, particularly noting some of the service delivery discrepancies and deficiencies that are there throughout municipalities within the country that are mostly ANC-led?
Well, I think, thank you, Samkele, for having us this morning. The story of Riverside, Riversense, the story of Diepsloot is a very interesting story that demonstrated that it is possible to achieve spatial development that helps to reverse the effects of the exclusionary past. And if you look at the work that has been done here and compare it to the work that was done or how the state of this place was more than 10 years ago, you would indeed agree that human settlements and the sprawling human settlements, mixed-use development that has been showcased here through the structures that are here is demonstrative of the fact that it can be done elsewhere in the country. This is a positive story. It is a success story. It also catered and caters for people that had come from underprivileged backgrounds, and therefore this is evidence of a successful human settlements project. It is also indicative of the fact that when we talk about spatial planning, where you have got integration of services, road services, and at the moment there's a mobile clinic that has been put in place. There's the school that is going to be built where we are right now. That is indicative of this long-held dream or belief by the ANC that when we put in place human settlements, they don't stand in isolation, they stand as part of the integrated package of services that must be delivered. In other words, schools next to human settlements, nurseries or crashes next to human settlements, functional roads, tarred roads, as we see here. And so we hope that this is a model that gets replicated across the country, particularly where the ANC will be contesting and we're hoping to win those municipalities.
But Ms. Bhengu, if you drive in Potchefstroom, for an example, those roads are riddled with potholes. You go to Buffalo City Municipality, those got the same problems. You go to Gqeberha in Nelson Mandela Bay Metro Municipality, 3.5 billion rands in cash in hand within the bank, but there are governance challenges. They cannot spend that particular money. There are many other municipalities that are faced with discrepancies across the country. Just oppose that with a good story to tell with the turnaround of eThekwini Municipality. What can't you do right in those municipalities that are simply dysfunctional and unviable and financially unsustainable?
Yes, also for us the question is what can we do right to replicate the eThekwini model, to replicate other models where we have really done decently. If you look at when we did a council assessment and functional councils as part of our January 8th early this year, we would find that, for example, municipalities such as Polokwane, such as Ehlanzeni, such as Waterberg. There may be institutional challenges, but we've had cases where service delivery is taking place and institutional leadership at a municipal level is relatively stable, notwithstanding some of the teething challenges. We want that to be replicated across the country. And that is why it's going to be important for the ANC to be true to the people of South Africa by ensuring that whoever gets elected as a mayor, each of these metropolitan municipalities and secondary cities must be worthy individuals who, if they've served in council, demonstrate a record of performance, demonstrate a record of not being found with their hands in the cookie jar. And those are the things that we should be looking out for, because we're coming here today to make those commitments to the people of South Africa. We're very much mindful of the trust deficit that currently exists between our movement, a movement that basically was set up by the people of South Africa. And that is why we have an obligation, including a moral obligation, to undo those things that have undermined the standing of the ANC in society.
But how do you, is it not a mistreatment, particularly, and a neglect of people who are living in rural municipalities, as opposed to referring to secondary cities? A person who is in Umshwati local municipality, for example, where I come from, or to a local municipality, a neighboring municipality, who may look for greener pastures but does not want to leave those particular areas. What about local economic development within those particular areas in rural communities where agriculture is the main thrust of economic activity within those particular municipalities?
I mean, one of the stories that are often less told is how, for instance, under an ANC-led government, I'm going to use the example of KwaZulu-Natal, under the leadership of the late Mtolepi Ntimkhulu, when he became MSc for agriculture. And look at the work that was done by the provincial government in supplying implements, seeds, and cultivating the land and helping people to actually till the land and work the land. Those are the things we must go back to ensure that rural communities can self-sustain, to ensure that the local economic development strategy adopted at a national level, driven by COCTA, is seen to be implemented across the board, particularly in our rural communities, such that people don't have to migrate to the cities, but can actually act out an existence where they are. We have seen success stories in relation to agriculture under the leadership of the ANC. Those are the things that we have demonstrated that we can do, and we must go back to those things. And I must say, with all our challenges, since of incumbency, the ANC remains the only organization with governance experience accumulated over years and years.
In short, Ms. Bhengu, what are some of the key points we can look forward to the president's speech, of your president's speech, particularly around local economic development in communities where people live?
Certainly, local economic development will probably feature very strongly. I would say that the manifesto has got to be anchored around issues of services to our people, to ensure that there's equitable delivery of services to our people, to ensure that municipal governance is taken to a higher level. We already know what the challenges are. We know what needs to be done to fix local government. We know that there needs to be a new funding model for local government. We need to implement those things. It's the ANC that has diagnosed the challenges, and if the ANC is capable of actually correcting those things in local government.
In short, why did you chicken out of announcing mayoral candidates?
It's not a chicken out. It is allowing ourselves to campaign, because it's the ANC that goes into municipalities. It's not exactly individuals. But I must say that all of those people announced there have got an equal chance. And we want to focus on campaigning at the stage. We will announce at leisure. We will announce our candidates, and I think we're comfortable at the caliber that will of candidates that will actually be ultimately identified. It's not a chicken out. I did see some commentary, mixed reaction, and I do know that we've let some people down because they thought that we will announce the candidates and we will then spend more time talking about individuals as opposed to the manifesto of the African National Congress.
So, and essentially the candidates will only be known after the 4th of November?
I cannot say that. We are going to the National Executive Committee, the extended, and it is that meeting that will then make a final decision.
essentially the NEC may have the powers to say, no, don't announce, avoid 2016 with the late Mapiti Matsena and Dr. Khosi and Ramahupa of no Sputla, no vote, announce after election date.
The NEC, as you know, is the highest decision-making body in between conferences, and therefore every other decision we make is guided by the directives of the National Executive Committee.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bhengu, who is the spokesperson of the African National Congress, essentially saying that they may not announce the mayoral candidates until after the election. So if you are anticipating to hear who will be the ANC's mayoral candidates for the city of Johannesburg, you may not have that announcement or may not get it because the ANC is trying to avoid an issue where some of their members become disgruntled and go to splinter organizations or simply stay away and don't campaign for the party, which will thus contribute negatively to the outcomes of those who will go out to the polls to vote for the ANC, which will have an issue of the ANC's voter base staying away. And they're trying at all costs to minimize any of those internal ructions that may negatively affect them on the 4th of November, Lizo.
Samkele, lots of developing and moving parts there. We'll monitor that as the manifesto launch gets underway there for the ANC. Thank you for that update there.